We're live.
Hey, we are live, and I'm coming to you live from the Chick-fil-A as I'm traveling on the road today. This
So
is the
you're
best.
gonna serve up all of our listeners, Deb?
That's right. I'm gonna be serving some stuff up, and you better be listening. Let me tell you.
What are we gonna be serving up today, Deb?
You know what, Jeff? I really have been thinking about the CMO recently, especially since I'll be going out to Palo Alto later this week for the CMO Huddle. And I see two kinds of CMOs. I see the brave CMO, and those are the ones that we definitely applaud. They are definitely putting the checks in all the boxes. But the CMO that we really, really love to work with is that bold CMO. That bold CMO that comes in and is not afraid to rip out everything and start from scratch because that is what is needed. So, what do you
Most
think?
people they're a lot of times used in the same sentence, right? But so don't people think they're the same thing, being brave and bold?
I mean, you could, but regardless of what you think about each, I do want to focus on that bold CMO, the one that is not afraid, the one that come. It's like saying the emperor has no clothes, right? When everybody agrees to this one thing, and it's completely not true, that is a bold CMO. They call bullshit when they see bullshit, right? And one of the biggest areas of bullshit is when your company thinks that marketing is still the pens and mugs department. Those words may not leave their mouth, but that is the way they treat the marketing organization. So that bold CMO, he or she comes in and she says, no, we're going to change all this crap. I am running a business unit. I do make a business impact. And let me tell you how this is going to happen. And they're not afraid to come in and re-engineer marketing from the bottom up and from the top down and from left to right. That is a bold CMO. And we've seen some of those recently, right?
No, we have. We saw it a couple years ago with Mika over at F5. I think she was definitely bold. I think when it's really recognizing the vision and the opportunity for what it is, and then making the changes, and not being afraid to change the work structure, to turn over your team, to do new processes, to not say, well, we've just always done it that way, or we have to hold on to this because it's what is the right thing, and then chart the future going forward. So if you're willing to, and I wouldn't say it's a ripping the tablecloth off situation, because that would imply that being bold is unplanned. I think you can be both. I think you can be disciplined and bold if you know what you're trying to do and then go do it.
I think you can too. And again, the boldness starts with how that CMO talks to the executive committee, the executive leadership team that he or she works with, to say, this is my vision for marketing. It is a business oriented part of our organization. And then, one of the things you talked about is making changes in all these different areas. We've seen CMOs come into companies that had a lot of legacy people, for example. And while these were really nice people, they did not have the skills for the future of marketing. So they were let go. That's always a difficult decision to make, but it is an example of a bold CMO, because a marketing organization is based on people, and it's based on the best talent that you can find for the things that you need to do. And if those people are not right, it's just not going to work. So, and we've seen CMOs come in and do that, and they do it with as much kindness and patience as they can. But at the end of the day, it's a bold move that must be made. And sometimes that boldness upsets the culture of an organization. But when you've been given a number and you've been told to go do it, and marketing before you was all about the pens and mugs department, things have to change. And that's where the boldness comes in.
I mean, look at what's been happening in professional sports, in particular college football. These coaches, they're heavily recruited. They get millions of dollars and are like, okay, you can recruit whoever you want for your staff, your players, but we expect you to win. But then they're getting let go 2, 3, 4 seasons in because they're not getting the job done, because these schools are spending millions and millions of dollars.
I'm not saying anything, but the Auburn coach could definitely be let go.
Yeah, a little influence there over Auburn.
Little social media influence on that one. Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's the same here. You're to your point. You're going to come in, and one example right now is with AI. Like, if you're a CMO, and not to mention yourself, but your team is still being resistant to try and figure out how to use AI, and we're seeing this a lot. Like, you've got to be bold. You got to, hey, you got to, like, you know what? You're much better off gracefully exiting those people and bringing in some people that have a healthy attitude about it. You're going to be better off. Short term, you're going to have some pain, yeah, but over time, it's really about building the culture and the team that you want.
It's a new culture.
Not what you've inherited. Your
Right.
job as a CMO is not to just keep managing what was there before you. It's to keep.
Well, unless you were hired to do exactly that. So it's all
Fair.
about that conversation during the hiring process. Because
Fair.
Jeff, and there was one company that we worked with, fairly large company, and transformation was wanted at a lower level than the CMO. And everything that we brought forward to that CMO, she just could not digest it. Her life was status quo, do what the ELT says, and that was her life, right? As a result, this is a very large organization with a marketing organization that's barely in the lead generation category of the revenue marketing journey, right? That lack of boldness just
Right,
it
but
was
to your
not
point,
there.
there's we see it, right? The Spencer Stewart survey comes out. I mean, the Fortune 5,000, the Fortune 10,000. Yeah, I mean, these CMOs are in that job 4-5 years, along with a lot of the rest of the executive suite, because it's a different point of view. But you start going down market, and you get into the higher levels of the enterprise, mid market, definitely SMB. That is not the case at all. CMOs have a shorter span than these college coaches do. I mean, they're getting about 18 months to prove what they're doing. And so how can you not be bold in that scenario?
It's a bless your heart moment, Jeff. It really is.
We're gonna have to do an episode just on a bless your heart.
Just don't bless your heart. That's exactly right. It's so frustrating whenever we come in to work with an organization and we instantly see the transformations that are required, because we have done this a few thousand times. And it's not that difficult for them to go from A to Z. And yet that culture that I just have to get my checks in the box, I can't upset things too much, I have to work with what I have. When we see those kinds of CMOs, we know that the transformation will never happen. We know that that marketing organization will never be considered a revenue marketing organization. They will always be considered the pens and mugs department of the organization. So we love these bold CMOs. And as a matter of fact, that's one of the things that, since we came up with this topic, when I go out to Palo Alto later this week for the CMO Huddle, I want to listen for the bold moves. I want to listen for what our CMOs doing that is bold. And to your point, it comes in many different areas. It comes with new strategies. It comes with people. It comes with organizational structures. How many times recently have people asked us about, will you take a look at my org structure because what I have right now just is not working?
Yeah, or it's really anything. We still see so many decisions being led by tech versus the strategy before the tech. And that's what's guiding a lot of this. Well, we need to modernize our martech stack, and I'm sure that's a true statement and all, but you're like, well, why? What are you going to do with it? What's not working now? Why do you necessarily need to replace some of these components if you just use the components that you have?
Right.
And sure, there could be cases where bringing in new tech is highly warranted.
Yeah.
But that though is what's led this martech madness for the last 15 years.
It has, yeah.
Where everyone just buys, and now you're sitting on top of 150 or 200 applications, and you can't get hardly any of them to work.
So here's an example.
More bold, that's just being stupid, I think.
So here's an example of a bold CMO. We know a bold CMO who is saying no to receiving over $1 million to change some technology in their martech stack. And why is that? Because this person knows that they will be no better off. And as a matter of fact, they will be behind if they do this. I mean, who says no to $1 million, Jeff?
I haven't said no to $1 million.
I'll never say no to $1 million. Let me tell you.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean, that's an example of being bold.
Yeah.
Whether it is changing out your team, whether it's reorging, whether it's coming up with a new business strategy, being disruptive, not for the sake of being disruptive, but because you truly can see it leading to a path of meaningful change, then that's good disruption. But being bold doesn't mean being chaotic, though. That's
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
It does not serve you well to come in and start ripping everything up and throwing the chairs around if you don't know exactly where everything's supposed to go.
And I'll say this, we've been doing this, since 2007. We met in 2004, so we were doing it even before then. And the thing I know about the CMO is that they've always got that vision in mind for why this change needs to happen. Not just because they want to wake up one day and change things. It's always based on a vision for what the role of marketing can be in the organization, always.
And I think part of being bold too is recognizing that if you truly want to transform, you can have that in the back of your head for your plan, but you have to be very outcome driven. We've talked before about the 90-day plan really needs to be a 9-minute plan because every CMO comes in and I get it. You want to interview the team, review the budget, get a lay of the land, understand. And then after 90 days, you're going to come and present your plan to the team and the CEO, like you're coming down from the mountaintop, right, with your tablets. And that shit worked well in the 90s, but now literally, like, what are you doing on the first day?
Exactly. So
that
much
doesn't
faster.
mean you can't have a plan, of course, but you have to be able to break it down into smaller pieces. And you need to be ready with you step on that very first day, you got to be hitting it.
And you know what, Jeff? It's a playbook that everybody should know by now. It's not like this stuff is hard to discover, right? Maybe in 2007, 9, 10, 11, 12, how do you transform an organization to become a revenue marketing organization? Maybe it was a little bit more of a mystery then, but today, the levers are the levers. There's there's a finite number of levers that you pull as a CMO. Everybody should have access to that same playbook to make that transformation. So when we see that, it's not like this knowledge is a well-kept secret. It's accessible, and we see CMOs not leaning into that kind of change.
No, and they have AI too. They can type into ChatGPT and say, "Hey, here's my stuff. Tell me what to do."
That's right.
But
That's right.
It's no different than people making New Year's resolutions that they're going to lose weight or go to the gym and do all this other stuff, and then they don't actually do the work, right? So you want to be bold. You can't just have the plan. You got to work the plan. You got to be making traction every day. Make those hard decisions. Keep doing it day after day after day until you start getting the outcomes that you want.
So let's talk about some characteristics or traits of the bold CMO. Number one, they are change agents. That's the reason that they were probably hired and brought into a position. And they know how to affect change. They have experience in doing that. That's number one. Number two, that next level beneath them, their direct reports are the kind of people that come to the CMO with ideas for how to do things different. If we see it's only the CMO who is making decisions or coming up with ideas for what and how to change, then that CMO is not being served by his or her direct teammates. So those are two characteristics that we see in the bold CMO. What else would you say?
I think you have to be willing to do things that might be unpopular because they make business sense to you. So it's really kind of putting in some tough ideas. I think you have to be a really good communicator that, when not just saying the message, but really driving it for people so that they can understand what it means for them.
Again, how I'm laughing about an account right now. Actually, it was the account that we were working with about 2 years ago. And we had a great CMO that we were working with. He was just fantastic. But that communication it would come down from him sporadically to his direct reports and then sporadically to the rest of the organization. And it was one of the single biggest issues that he had in helping change happen and having people feel like they were part of the change versus they were the ones having to endure the change. So you're right, that communication is absolutely key.
Because I think bold leaders, bold CMOs, just like any good leader, it's not just doing it, but everyone gets excited about it. They want to follow this person, right? They're like, yeah, I get it. I understand this vision. I'm down. I'm willing to put the work in. But that does take layered communication and consistent communication. And you and I have even found this over the years. Like, even for the most basic things with our direct reports, you go more than 1 or 2 weeks without repeating the stuff. All of a sudden, it's like, so we're not doing that anymore? Like, no, of course we are. Well, yeah, but it hasn't come up. It wasn't on the agenda. You didn't say it.
That's right. You have to repeat things at least 3 or 4 times.
Even way more than that as well, especially Deb, if you're talking about bold, CMOs, it could be literally like hundreds, if not thousands of times. And not only that, but repeating it in a way to whoever that person is, not just your VPs, but the junior employee, that they're hearing it in a way that makes sense for them, that they get excited about it. Yeah. And that's really those interpersonal skills of a bold CMO that can really get the team excited about what they're doing.
I remember one time we were working with an organization, again, a larger organization. We actually wrote the CMO a stump speech. And a stump speech for a politician is something that they're going to say over and over and over and over. Whatever meeting they're in, no matter where they are, it's this message or parts of that message. And so we wrote her a stump speech because they were beginning to transform their marketing organization from basic lead generation to really becoming responsible for revenue. So she had to have her stump speech for communicating up, for communicating sideways, and for communicating all the way down to every single person within her fairly global, widespread organization. So we created a stump speech for her, and it was highly effective.
Right. And I think communication is one of the most important skills. One of my favorite sayings that our team's heard me say over and over again is communication. The biggest obstacle is the illusion that's actually taking place.
Yes, that's absolutely true.
And yeah, we see it all the time. You and I are in a meeting. Yeah, Deb, I thought that meeting was awesome. You're like, are you kidding? That was terrible. It's raining outside. It's a crappy day. You're like, I love the rain. It's beautiful out, So that happens all the time, like the context, right?
It does.
So so bold CMOs need to be great communicators. They need to be willing to make decisions that are not popular.
And you know what else they need to be? They need to be extraordinarily curious. They need to always be looking over the horizon, understanding not just about the next piece of technology, but understanding where customers are going, where technology is going, where their company is going.
So not just asking why, but why not?
That is a great question. Why and why not? So they constantly have that vision, and they have those instincts for understanding what is changing and being agile enough and creating an organization that is agile enough. Moving forward, if you don't have an agile organization, you will struggle. That is the hallmark of living in the world that we live in now, especially for marketing organizations. It's agility. It's how quickly you can change. It's how effectively you can change. And so, again, their ability, their capability to have that future vision look and to bring it into the now is something that we also see with bold CMOs.
So I guess that leads us back to the original question. Are you going to be bold? Are you going to be brave?
That's right. Well, we love to work with bold CMOs. We work with brave CMOs as well. But I do think it's an interesting discussion, especially for the future of the role of the CMO. I think the world that we live in, I think the market that we live in really requires that bold CMO.
Amen. All right. Well, thanks for serving it up. So we're out this week of Revenue Marketing Raw. I'm Jeff.
I'm Debbie.
All right. We'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.